Um, trying to kick this thing off. This is probably like the worst start to any stream I've ever had. Literally everything that could have possibly gone wrong has gone wrong. For example, stuck in traffic because it's raining, so can't have rain. Um, none of the restream platforms are working, so like the LinkedIn live stream is going to the wrong event. So I don't even know how to tell my audience to go watch it there. I'm so angry. I have to start the live stream on Substack, so please give me a moment. I apologize. I just need a second here, folks, because nothing's working. 10 years of. If you're joining, please let me know in the chat that the chat's working, because I would appreciate if at least something worked today. Thanks for being patient. Okay. One thing out of the way. Um, yeah, I don't know what to do for the folks on LinkedIn. It's just not working. I feel like I need to tell people to go to this other event, which is super dumb. And for those of you watching on other platforms, you're probably like, "Why does this matter?" Just get into it. But I just want to send this to the other folks one sec. It's forcefully streaming here. Okay. I don't know what else to tell folks on LinkedIn. Even like Instagram's not working. I want a refund from Restream. I wonder if they'll do that. Anyway, I see a couple people have joined. Again, sorry for being super delayed here. I'm very flustered, but it looks like I got some people on Twitter. Thanks for being here. And just Twitter, because no other platform's working. Oh, YouTube. I see some folks from YouTube. Cool. Okay. Well, today's conversation is going to be based on a recent newsletter article, and that newsletter article is also based on a conversation from one of my YouTube channels called Code Commute. And this stemmed from the idea, I guess I forgot to go live on Substack. This stemmed from the idea where years of experience was brought up, and someone was expressing frustration with the idea of years of experience and how that's like I think in one context, the original person was saying it's like years of experience is sort of like a toxic thing in software engineering. And I think, part of my perspective here is that I think there's definitely a situation where there's, especially for, people that are early in their career, they're trying to apply to jobs, and it's like basically entry-level job needs 10 years of experience. Like, I get that. That's a pretty shit thing. I don't think that's really fair. And then I tried to take some time to explain sort of why I think that's happening in some cases. Let me turn on the chat, sorry. Not that there's anything coming in. Is there? The chat that's showing... That's so funny. When I said that nothing's working, literally the chat that I see locally has nothing in it. So I don't know how I'm going to respond to chat if I can't see any chat. My goodness. Okay, let me move some things around. Okay. So I have to literally watch a microscopic version of chat because Restream chat isn't working. Okay. So Justin Bentley, thank you so much for sharing the link. TMN 1992 still failing at light, but still showing up. You better be showing up. Oh, and thanks, Justin. You shared their YouTube link. Thank you. Um, left you hanging. I literally can't read the chat. I'm just catching up now. We're cooking with gas. Yes, I feel like literally everything is on fire in the worst way possible. New to this field, but I could relate since ageism is common across the board. Yeah. So ageism is going to be a part of this for sure. I'm not going to focus too much on that specifically, but that's I think part of what people are starting to, when people are getting frustrated by years of experience. I think that's an aspect of it. So when this originally came up, I wanted to make I made a video on Code Commute, sort of addressing why I think years of experience becomes a proxy for good experience. And I need to be careful when I say that, because I'm not saying that that means it's true. I'm not saying it's a good proxy either. I'm saying it is a proxy. And if you're wondering what I mean by that, my statement is that I think that people are using years of experience to sort of try and correlate good experience when they're hiring folks. Now, I think for some of us that have been around for a while, you could absolutely make the argument like that is, it's not a causation type of relationship or a guarantee. And in fact, some people will go as far as to say it's a very bad proxy for experience. But I was trying to share in my Code Commute video on this, and a little bit in the newsletter article I wrote, that I think we've seen this for forever, and it's not unique to like software engineering and stuff where you'll have like X number of years of experience required. But I think where sorry, there's like dog hair or something in my eye, and I keep trying to wipe it away, and I finally got it. I see you. Get out of here. It's like, can't see. I think this happens in other industries as well, but I think especially with so many people trying to get their first jobs and stuff, they're really, really noticing this. So I think one of the reasons that we see more of this happening, especially in software development, is that, especially over the past few-ish years, we have a lot more remote work. We have a lot more competition when it comes to applying for jobs. And if we take a situation where there's like, say, 1,000 applicants to a job and there's one opening, the reality is that like a human is likely not going to sit there and go through all of the applications. Right. And if they do, they're probably finding a way to do it as optimally as they can. And you might be saying, well, Nick, that's unfair. And I agree. But I'm kind of thinking like, hey, if you had to go through 1,000 applications, the reality is you're probably going to try and optimize, and you're probably going to try to set some type of bar at some level to say that, like, if people aren't at least meeting this bar, then I'm going to move on. Now, that could mean that you're using systems that will be looking for keywords. It might mean you as a human are looking for keywords. It might mean that you as a human, or whatever automation that you're using, if any, you're going to say, well, look, okay, well, even though this is entry-level role or a junior role, like if we just set the bar higher, then we're probably, keyword probably, going to get a better candidate. Right? If someone has 0 years of experience and we say you must have at least 1 or at least 2, I bet you there's still going to be some people that are applying. And now maybe that takes us from 1,000 applicants to 200. Great. Like, okay, now we have 200 and we've already sifted through some of them technically, right? Like we got 200, there's 800 people that probably weren't as good. So let's keep going. So again, I'm not saying that this is necessarily good or guaranteeing you to get the best person for the position, but I think this is why we see this happen. So this is all just a preface to the conversation here. So then I followed that up because there was a sort of more dialogue around this where it's like, well, hey, not all experience is equal. And I think that's the whole point of saying why you can't just necessarily rely on years of experience. And I agree. Like, I actually don't think years of experience is a terrible proxy. I just don't think that it's something that I would necessarily gate on and necessarily rely on. I do think years of experience means you have the opportunity for more experiences. And if you have the opportunity for more experiences, you have the opportunity for perhaps better experiences. But I don't think that I don't think you can just make a formula and say, X years of experience means this level of excellence. I just don't think that makes sense. I don't think it translates. So the whole article, and I would put it into the chat, but literally if I pull up chat right now, it still says chat is completely empty. Oh, wait, maybe not. Maybe it's back. I see. Is it Michelle Cherokee? I think I have, that's the first message, because I'm sharing the chat and you guys can see it on the stream, right? The first message I have on my chat is from Michelle Cherokee on YouTube that says, new to this field, but I could relate since ageism is common across the board. Literally the first message that came in. So maybe that means I can share stuff now. In which case, let me put the link to the newsletter if you guys want to read it. Again, I've shared this kind of stuff before. If you're not new to my streams, but the newsletter is completely free for the first month of content. There's a paywall after a month, but if you just wanted to go every Saturday and just read whatever the new newsletter is to see what I'm going to be streaming about, that's the wrong newsletter. One sec. This one. Then you can just read it for free. Capital gains. It's going pretty rough, to be honest. This is probably the worst start to a stream I've maybe ever had in my life, but I appreciate folks being here. So yeah, if you want, there's a link to the newsletter, and that's just going to be framing for what's coming up in the conversations on Monday evenings, which is the stream you're on right now. So let me go move my windows around again, that I can see the chat. It's a lifesaver to be able to actually read the chat. Cool. Okay, what was I saying? 10 years of experience versus 10 years of the same experience. So when I put this article together, I wanted to talk about, the difference between those two things primarily, but I wanted to break down that when we talk about 10 years of the same experience, it's been a long day, man. 10 years of the same experience might sound pretty bad on the surface, but I think that this is not necessarily a career ender. It's just not something I'd recommend. So we're going to go into that. Then we're going to talk about 10 years of different experiences and kind of see how we can steer ourselves in this direction. Michelle says, what can we define as good experience in software engineering and tech? More importantly, how can we display that to a hiring manager when transferring over from other career paths? Awesome. Yeah. So this is a great question. And by the way, it is Michelle, right? Michelle Cherokee. So this question, I'm only questioning that because I see the name Michelle, and I see Wario, and I don't know. Just wanted to make sure. I think especially when you're coming from other industries and maybe it's not related to tech at all, you have an enormous leg up on some people that are brand new. And that is that if you've worked in other industries and you've worked in teams of any kind, or you've done worked on delivering projects of any sort or dealing with customers, there are so many different types of skills and experiences that you can showcase, while other people that are brand new to the industry are trying to like everyone who's new to it, let's demonstrate our technical skills. That's obviously an important thing for software developers. People that have been in the industry doing other things literally can lean on so many things aside from just the code. So you might be in a great spot to absolutely crush your behavioral interviews, right? And if you're even before that, you're talking about on resumes, right? Because when I talk about this stuff, I talk about it in 3 phases. You're going to have the phase where you're trying to stand out in terms of your job applications in your resume. You're going to have a second phase, which is actually interviewing, making sure that you can perform well in the interview. And then you're going to have your experience on the job and getting started. And all these 3 things, in my mind, I would love if they were the same focus. They're not. And there's lots of sort of audio quality on YouTube is so much better than Substack. Awesome. Well, sorry if you're watching on Substack, apparently it's really bad. That's because it's coming through my cell phone, and that's because Substack doesn't support streaming as a first class thing yet. Substack, Doesn't do a lot of things very great, but here we are. So I apologize. If you want to watch, if you're on Substack and you want to watch this apparently with better quality because you get a real microphone, then I would highly recommend just go to Dev Leader on YouTube. It's the same exact stream. It might just be way better. And Alan, yes, you made it. I was late because I was stuck in traffic. So I was late leaving work. I was stuck in traffic because it was like raining like crazy. And then there was a tree that was down on one of the streets to get home. So it was awful. Just like everything that could, and then got here, and then Restream wouldn't connect to any platform. It connected to LinkedIn, but it's streaming to the wrong event, and I can't change it. Chat wasn't working. Just a mess. But yeah, Michelle, I hope that answers your question. I think you can lean into like so many different things that you would have worked on in teams, delivering projects, navigating difficult situations, things like that. And even on a resume, you can try to highlight some. Oh, sorry, Nick, need to change over to my icon and maybe the title name. Mike is the name. Oh, Mike is the name. Michelle was what they called me when I worked in Italy. Okay, sorry, Mike. I've been calling you Michelle here. And okay, so Mike, maybe I'll just call you Wario. But yeah, I think the thing I would call out is if you're focused on the resume part, then I think you can call out experiences where you've succeeded working in teams or succeeded delivering challenging projects, and having some work experiences like that will shine and stand out compared to other people that are brand new to like software development because they've never potentially had any job experience, right? So I say this because I think people overlook this a lot, but yes, the technical skills are very important, but sometimes like it's a bit of a, not culture shock's not the right word, but like an eye opener. I guess when you're trying to build software in teams and you're like, I'm working for a business now. I'm not just like building projects for school or like coding stuff up for fun. Like literally I need to deliver things. I need to work with other people. I have to communicate to other stakeholders. Lean into those types of things, even if you haven't coded before professionally. So that's what I would recommend. So 10 years of experience versus 10 years of the same experience. Now, let's start with kind of the maybe obvious, maybe not so obvious sort of situation, which is 10 years of the same experience is probably not optimal. And when I say same experience in this context, I'm saying like literally the same thing over and over. And I think that what can happen is that people get very, very comfortable, right? So you're doing something, maybe in the beginning it's not so obvious, and then like you kind of find your groove on something and you're just very comfortable, right? And I should be careful when I say this too. I maybe I shouldn't say that it's bad, because maybe your work-life balance is good, maybe your pay is good, and you're happy. And like that's, I want to acknowledge, and like maybe I should have been more careful about saying that, but like that I shouldn't call that bad. I think that's probably not what I would advise for advancing in your career, is maybe how I would say that. But truly, if you're doing that and you're happy, like I am, it's not for me to say that that's bad or you shouldn't. But 10 years of the same experience, when we say that and we're talking back, like reflecting on the work, years of experience being a proxy for good experience, you're not getting exposed to other things, right? So, and I have like some parts of my career are a little bit like this. Fortunately, things get shaken up. But like from a programming language perspective, right? Like I'm a C# developer. I love using C#, and like good luck getting me to use anything else, right? So I have a lot of experience in C# and I focused on it. But that's going to kind of like pivot us to this next point, which is if you're 10 years of the same area of experience, but you're going deeper and deeper on it, that might not actually be such a, air quotes, like bad thing. In fact, that might be a really good thing. So for me, when I've been focusing on C#, it's not just that I stayed doing the same thing with C#. I tried to do more, so get more exposure to different .NET technologies, trying to understand the language better, get myself to a point where I can teach other people about C#. So truly trying to go deeper and deeper with it. And we can make the same argument, pick different technologies. And I'm sure a bunch of people watching this stream may have this kind of situation for a certain technology or something. But if we're getting 10 years of experience in the same area, but we're not just like satisfied with where we're at, but we're like, there's more to learn here, there's more to go deeper on, I'm going to become a true expert on this. I think that's something where you're taking, even though it's the same, air quote, same experience, you're truly driving progress and learning. So I think that is one way to try and take something that maybe isn't such a positive setup and turn it into something more positive. Now, when I think about the first scenario, I use the word complacency. And I say complacency because, again, like, I shouldn't say complacency is a bad thing for everyone, but for me, like, it's not something that I like. And specifically around career growth, right? I think it's important to get uncomfortable. And I think that because if you're in, maybe not every uncomfortable situation, but I think when you're in uncomfortable situations, there's learning opportunities. I realized that when I was going to say that, I was like, I can think of some uncomfortable situations that probably aren't good for learning. But I hope you get what I mean, right? If you're exposed to something that's like a new technology, or you're working in an area that's unfamiliar to you, odds are you're probably going to learn a lot, right? An example that I like to share is like going for on-call engineers, right? Like, we do on-call rotations for the teams I'm on. And that might be very uncomfortable because you're like, oh shit, I have to like help support this live service for my team. And like, I've never had to do that. That's uncomfortable. But guess what? You're going to learn so much doing it. And sometimes getting into these uncomfortable situations is a great growth opportunity. So I recommend, if you're like finding yourself being complacent, even if you don't have these opportunities to move around to different things, which is going to be the part we're going to talk about next, you might be able to say, look, like, I really like the area that I'm in. I like the domain I'm in. I like the technology I'm using. But like, perhaps it's worth trying to challenge yourself. Like, how do you go deeper on some of these things? How do you build expertise, right? Not just doing the same thing over and over. There may be situations, I'm trying to think outside of the box a little bit here. This is like when I'm doing vlog entries for Code Commute. A lot of what I'm doing is just like I don't know, I think some people might be here from Code Commute, but I basically do like a stream of consciousness, right? So I'm just talking about things, and I try to call out, like, let me think about this from a different angle. Like, this maybe isn't my opinion, but like, let's try to put this other lens on and talk about things from a different perspective. And yeah, I wonder if you're finding yourself being complacent and you're like, I don't know, like, you want to challenge yourself or approach things in a different way. Like, is there a way where you can just try to go deeper on things, right? So that way, at least you're exercising, like, okay, you don't have to get so uncomfortable where you're like, I have to go switch teams, or I have to go to a different company or something. Like, that might be too dramatic and too uncomfortable. But you could take the tech stack you're working on and say, like, I actually don't know how this works under the hood, right? You might be I did a bit of a brain fart there. The thing I wanted to bring up was, like, I often don't talk about people that are like solo developers, or, you're running your own, I don't know, consulting kind of company. It's just you, sort of thing. You might find yourself in a spot where you're like, I'm going to make websites for people. I'm going to make apps for people. And you find that, like, you have a bit of a pattern that you're using. Like, I can spin up the same website for someone, theme it a little bit differently, or build something very slightly different, and I could just keep cranking this out and people pay me for it. So, like, there's not like a lot of incentive to get uncomfortable there, right? You might just kind of be like, this works, I'm going to keep doing it. So the reason I wanted to bring up an example like that is, well, you're right, that might keep working, and that might be a great source of income for you because you found something that kind of is convenient. You can do it, you can repeat it. But, like, is that going to be forever? Right? Is something else going to come along and disrupt that? And then are you going to find yourself in this weird spot where you're like, hey, I don't have that thing anymore. People don't need to come buy that from me. Or some other thing disrupts it where it's not really feasible for you to do that. So if you were at least going deeper on it, at least, then you might have some different experiences where you can say, okay, maybe we can try something else instead. But if it's just the same experience over and over and over again, you're not getting a breadth of experience and you're not really getting depth. But now we can start to talk about the breadth part as well. So I was talking about going deeper a whole lot, but let's talk about letters of the alphabet. Now, okay, before I go into letters of the alphabet, Mike has a question. How would you go about selecting certain technologies that you could specialize in, select an opportunity, create an opportunity for growth? C-based developers looking into Rust integrations. Yeah, I think like this is going to be, it's going to be highly dependent, right? I think what a lot of people try to do is they go, let's try to look at the trends. So for example, like I'm saying trends because I see the example in the chat is like C-based developers looking into Rust integrations. Rust is pretty trendy. You'll have people that are saying like, hey, like I know AI is big, so like I have to go into AI. Doesn't matter, like have to go into AI, have to go into machine learning, have to go into AI. I think it's going to be highly individual, right? So a lot of the time, I don't recommend like ignoring trends, but at the same time, I don't think that needs to drive everything. And I think when it comes to specializing in things like, and a lot of when I talk about career advancement and like, what's a good way to put this? Like career longevity is like, I think you have to, sorry, I know it's like corny and cliche, but like, I think you have to be happy doing what you're doing. So to give you, I'm just going to give you an example based on Mike's kind of point here, right? So C-based developers looking to Rust integrations. If, for example, you're like, man, Rust is the trendy thing, like, I guess I got to learn it. And like, that's going to be the thing I go deep on or try to specialize in. If you were like learning Rust and playing with it and sticking around with it for a bit and you're like, Rust just like sucks the life out of me. Like I hate using it, but you're like, I know I have to because like everyone else is doing it. Like, is it worth it? And I'm not trying to pick on Rust here. I'm just using it as an example, right? Like, is it worth trying to specialize in something just because it happens to be trendy? Or it happens to be something where someone posted on LinkedIn and said, did you know that there's only like 10 developers in the world that use this and there's an extreme demand? And you're like, oh shit, like I guess if I learn that, I could get $1 million a year working in systems that are 50 years old. I should do that. That might be a strategy, but I think I might recommend like trying to find things that are in alignment with something that maybe is slightly trendy, maybe, but at least like something that you enjoy, right? Finding something that you're good at, that you enjoy, and you want to like double down on, I would recommend that over just like trend. And the reason is like, if it's trend, like I'm thinking longevity in your career. It doesn't matter if it's a trend, if you're like burnt out from doing it after like 2 years and you're like, I hate developing software because I picked something that like really sucks and I just got to keep sticking with it. So my recommendation would be like trying to lean into more about understanding what things you enjoy. And if you don't know yet, I'd say keep trying. Don't do Python though. I don't like Python personally. It's not my preference. I'm sure just lost a couple subscribers, but just I don't enjoy working with Python. I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong with it. It just like doesn't make me happy when I program in it. There's not a lot of languages that do. C# does the trick. But yeah, Mike, I hope that kind of helps answer. And if it does, maybe we can jump over to letters of the alphabet. I'm just going to put some caffeine into my face because I noticed I had to yawn and I don't want to be holding in yawns like this the whole time. And I made myself yawn. Okay. Thanks folks for putting up with me today, but I remember I'll be very transparent with all of you. So I was driving home from work and it was later than I wanted to leave. I got on the highway and it was like, it's going to be like 50 minutes to get home. I'm like, I'm going to be late for this stream. I already know it. This is before I saw the tree that was down. And I'm filming a code commute vlog and I probably got like 20 minutes into it. I was just like, I'm turning this off. Like I was, yeah, not in a good mood, as you might have guessed. and then was thinking like, I don't like want to give up on doing this stream. Not that it's like, I know it's not like earth shattering. It's like, it's just Nick doing a stream on a Monday, like every other Monday, but it's important to me. And then when things weren't working at the beginning of this, I was like, even after all of that effort trying to get here, and like, it won't stream to LinkedIn properly, and like Instagram was broken. I have to check Instagram. No one's talking on Instagram. Chat was broken and stuff. I'm like, why am I bothering? Like, this is feels like crap. So I appreciate all of you being here, because that means a lot to me. And thanks for tolerating this. But let's talk about letters of the alphabet. Some of you probably know where I'm going with this, especially if you did open up the newsletter article. You know exactly what I'm about to say. But there's this thing you probably heard about, maybe. It's called the T-shaped developer. The T-shaped developer. So I spent some time talking about going deep on certain things. But when we talk about T-shaped developers, it's this idea where you have breadth across certain areas, or at least different areas. And then we think about the letter T, right? That's the breadth. And then you have the depth. So something that you're kind of specializing in. And you can pick slightly different shapes, right? It doesn't mean you have to specialize in only one thing ever, but it's more like you have at least a breadth of experiences, and then being able to go deep. Because if you only go super broad, right, you only scratch the surface on a bunch of stuff, you'll probably find that you have a challenge where it's like you can't really be effective at many things. Like, you could at least, do a little bit of everything, but you're like, I can't really do things very well because I only know a little bit of a bunch of stuff, right? But with a T-shaped approach, the idea is that you're getting exposed to a bunch of these other things. You're building breadth of experience, right? Just to make up an example, right? Like, or I guess it's actually like, this isn't totally made up, just to use an example. Like, I program in C#, right? So that's something that I have decided to go deep on. So the .NET tech stack, I use C#, I program in ASP.NET. I build console applications, desktop applications, websites, mobile apps, whatever. But that's kind of like something that I have spent a lot of my career going deep on. But I can program in Python. I can program in Java. I can program in C++ as much as I don't like to. Rust, I couldn't even get Hello World to work once I pulled the string out of the console writing, like, or the print, whatever it is. But I was like, I don't think Rust is for me, man. Like, I don't think I'm going to survive. So like, I can go across a bunch of things. I hate using JavaScript, but and I would prefer TypeScript over that for sure. But so the front end for the application I'm building outside of work, Brand Ghost, like, that's all in TypeScript. Like, I can navigate it. It's not something like everything I just listed there is not stuff I've gone deep on. So I have a breadth of coverage, but I have gone really deep on a bunch of stuff that's C# related. I don't know if I have like any other like super deep skill sets, like even stuff like SQL, right? Like SQL, I definitely know a lot more SQL than I know, like, or a comfort level than like JavaScript. Like, I can write SQL queries, I can design schemas and stuff, but it's not like super deep by any means. But the idea here is that you're able to kind of go deep and have a breadth of experience. So, one way, like, I already started talking a little bit earlier about how you can start to try and do this. And the idea that I was talking about was going deep. But I said you have to get uncomfortable with stuff, right? We can do the same approach with trying to be T-shaped, which is, instead of just saying, how do I go deep on this particular thing? Because maybe for some people, I think that almost, I don't know, maybe not, but I feel like that can almost happen naturally. So instead of just being totally complacent on something and not actually advancing your understanding, I feel like it's actually more common that people are like, hey, I like this thing, and like, I just want to keep learning more about it. I'm going to keep practicing with it. I'm going to keep going deeper on it. So I feel like that's the more natural tendency out of what I was saying earlier. So when it comes to getting uncomfortable, you have a bunch of opportunities. I do use Blazor. I just have not spent a lot of time building with Blazor. And the team that I'm currently working with on our side project outside of work is no one had used Blazor, and we just have more experience working with a TypeScript front end. But reality is, like, if I were building completely alone, like, I would build with Blazor for that reason, which is that I can. If you guys don't know what Blazor is, it's like a tech stack to get C# in the front end for development in the web. So like that's what I would gravitate towards. When it comes to trying to be T-shaped and get that breadth, though, we can do this the same concept of getting uncomfortable. We got to keep it C#. That's right, and that is like trying to get yourself exposed to these different opportunities. So how does that happen? Well, let's chat through a few different things. If you're already working somewhere, then one thing you can do is, like, say you're working on a team. And so like at Microsoft, just to give you an example, like the 2 teams that I've managed at Microsoft, yes, Maddie, this is a weekly call. It's at 7 p.m. Pacific every Monday. And this is the first time I've been late, I think, ever. So I apologize. But maybe, Maddie, maybe you joined late, so maybe you didn't know. I'm not sure. But it's every week, 7 p.m. Pacific. What was I saying? I got too excited from the chat. You guys gotta help me. Oh, teams. Yes, thank you. Thanks, brain. Say you're working on a team. I was talking about teams at Microsoft. The teams I've been on at Microsoft have been all like platform-based teams. It's all back-end technology, distributed system kind of stuff. And I've had people on my teams where they're like, hey, like, this is cool and all, but like, I would love if there was an opportunity where I could practice some front end work. And I'm like, oh crap, like, okay. And for context, for those, I need to sometimes clarify. I don't know who people even know what I do or who I am or anything. So I work at Microsoft right now. I'm a principal engineering manager there. Been managing engineering teams for almost 13 years. But one of my, like, sort of, when I think about leading teams and trying to help people grow in their careers, like, I want people to be challenged. I want people to be engaged. I want to make sure that they're learning. And ultimately, my goal is to help people grow in their career, right? If they're doing what I had just kind of outlined, and I can help them do their best work, I want to make them do their best work, or help them do their best work, not make them do anything, and help them grow in their career. And if someone on my team is trying to tell me, like, hey, I would like an opportunity where I could be doing X, I think for some people, they might go, well, we don't do X. Like, figure it out. Like, that's not my problem, right? You gotta work on Y instead. When I hear someone saying, I would like the opportunity to work on X, I know that this idea is now in their head. It's something they want to do. So I have an option, which is I can try my best to find a way to support them with that, keep them engaged, make sure they're challenged, make sure they're learning. Or I can basically turn away from it and say, literally not my problem, right? You want to go learn about that? You want to practice that? Like, go do that after hours. I just don't think that second strategy, or the second approach, and I exaggerate a little bit, I don't think that's necessarily what I want to lean into. So I would much rather go out of my way to say, how can I see if there's a way forward with this? So I have had situations at Microsoft, at least on my former team, where people were doing this. And my one team is sort of under an umbrella of a couple larger teams, and said, hey, like, on the other teams, I said, there is front end work. I said, is there a possibility where I could have one of my engineers do some of the work that you guys have planned, right? Maybe something that's not, mission critical in terms of blocking other work, but, still a priority for your team. We're not just making up work. And could they volunteer some of their time to go do that, right? So it's like, it's still going to be helpful for the business. It's not made up work. And then these individuals can get a little bit more exposure to doing things that they're interested in. So step one, or opportunity number one, is like, could you, and if you watch my code commute videos, you know that this is my recommendation like 99% of the time. Have a conversation with your manager and try to express that you are interested in some different types of opportunities. If you feel uncomfortable being able to approach your manager about such a thing, then I would say you might want to spend time improving the working relationship with your manager, right? Easier said than done, I realize. But if you find that it's hard to have any conversation with your manager, it's going to be very difficult to get movement at all. So focus on that. If you've been trying and you're not getting traction, maybe it's not a great spot to be. So we can try seeing, if we stay on the team, are there other opportunities that could expose us to different types of things? The example I gave you is like literally when we don't have that option in the immediate team. But your immediate team, you might be looking at what some of the other people are doing and you're like, hey, like Billy gets to go work on the front end and I've been stuck doing the SQL stuff in the back end. Like, we literally have front end stuff here, or reverse it, right? I've been stuck in the front end been moving buttons around and changing, font colors by a couple numbers. And I would love to go learn about that SQL thing. Like, I really would like to have some exposure to that. Having a conversation and expressing your interest in that, could be just a very easy first step. Shouldn't say easy, very simple. I realize that for some people, it's not necessarily easy. Step 2 is very similar, but perhaps it's not looking for an opportunity within your team. Okay, so that might mean you tried option 1 and it, not really any opportunities there. That might mean that you skipped option 1 altogether because you were like, I don't know, or I don't feel comfortable that I'm going to even find such a opportunity going that route. So if your company is big enough where there's other teams, could you see about a team switch? Now, this is already more dramatic, right? You're like, okay, now I understand the discomfort part, because switching teams, oh man, like this seems pretty good. Like, I'm pretty comfortable here. I understand, right? But like, one of the things we talked about was complacency, comfort levels. Perhaps a team change is a good opportunity to get out of the comfort zone, right? That's one such thing. Now, it's a very much what I was just talking about. It could be, if you have a good working relationship with your manager and you're like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this, they might support you and say, I can try to help get alignment with a different team. They can get ahead of it and try to get backfill or something like that. So it's not impossible. Sometimes when I talk about this stuff, I'm like, if I were to be going through this situation, I had someone on my team say, hey, like, I think I want to do something else. Like I said earlier, I would try to make sure that I'm supporting them. The reality is, if they want to go do something else and I don't support them, I fully expect that they will, over time, get disengaged, and eventually they will try to move in that direction anyway. So I might as well, in my opinion, try to support them. So team switch is another opportunity. And then, of course, the more dramatic one is changing jobs altogether, right? That's obviously a pretty big, uncomfortable step for a lot of people, especially with the job market. That could be like, hey, I don't want to have to go through interviewing and stuff again. Like, that's a lot, very stressful, difficult to get to land the interviews in the first place. But the whole point of me saying this is like, if you're in your comfort zone right now and you're like, how do I get exposed to these other things? There don't seem to be opportunities. Everything that I was just walking through was like, how do you go create these opportunities? Now, you might have listened to all that and you said, that sounds ridiculous. Like, I happen to just be sitting in one spot and I keep getting a whole bunch of different variety. Great. That might be exactly what you want, right? I don't know. If you're trying to get more breadth and get exposure to different things and it's just showing up for you, like, that's excellent. Great stuff. But some people aren't in that position and they keep getting stuck with the same type of work and they're going, I don't know. Right? And this is why I gave you the example of people that were on my previous team where they're going, hey, like, I like the team, but essentially I know I keep getting work that looks like X and I would really like some front end work. Right? They're trying to say, I'm putting my hand up, I would like to create such an opportunity. Right? If they don't talk to me about it and they just keep waiting, odds are they're not going to see any front end work. We don't have it on the team. So meta point here is that for a lot of this stuff in your career, you need to be in the driver's seat. Okay, so when you're passively waiting for different opportunities, I would say that you're more likely to be disappointed or stay stagnant. Now, that doesn't, I'm not saying that it guarantees that you will be disappointed or guarantees that you will be stagnant, but I think statistically it's more likely. And I say this as someone who is more conservative with changing jobs. Like, it's very ironic. Like, becoming complacent is a fear of mine, but also diving into brand new things and being a complete beginner is also a fear of mine. So maybe I'm just afraid of everything all the time. But yeah, it's uncomfortable, right? I know when I went from where I used to work, which was Magnet Forensics, we built digital forensic software. I had basically worked in a startup that had grown into a mid-sized company, building digital forensics tools in the desktop based primarily. And when I was applying to big tech, it was like, this is deploying stuff to hundreds of thousands of machines and data centers across the planet. Guess who has zero experience doing that? This guy, right? Like, it's all wildly uncomfortable. So the one thing that I always remind myself, though, is, and it's, again, easier said than done, but I always remind myself every single time you've been put into a situation where you were uncomfortable, right? You felt like you were starting from scratch, like you're a complete newbie. Every single time that's happened, it has always ended positively. It's always ended in a situation where you learned a lot. I can't say that I've become an expert every time that's happened, and I don't think that that's necessarily an expectation of mine, but I've certainly learned a lot every time it's happened, and for the most part gotten to a spot where I was mostly comfortable. Not comfortable enough to be totally complacent, but comfortable enough where I'm like, you know what? I remember a time where I started doing this and I was panicking. I was having imposter syndrome, right? Like, I didn't know, like, am I actually going to figure this out? Things were really hard, to a point where I'm like, hey, wait, I can actually talk about this stuff, right? Like, I actually know what's up. I'm not an imposter. And yeah, every single time in the history of my career, it's always worked that way. It's just that it's sometimes hard to remember because it is uncomfortable. So this one, for the record, was intended to be a shorter stream topic. I was not planning on missing the first 20 minutes of the stream, but I'm going to wrap it up there for like content that was planned, and wanted to take this opportunity. If there's more questions in the chat, like, please, by all means, I see there's more people that have joined the stream. Oh, hello, great streamer. I didn't read the rest of that. I just blocked you. Yeah, if you have any questions, like, please let me know in the chat. Otherwise, we'll kind of talk about some of my other channels and stuff I'm doing. But I would much rather kind of use the last few minutes here to go through any questions for folks. And I will link it again in case people didn't see. Sorry if you're on Substack, you know exactly where my newsletter is because you're on Substack. But for other folks, I will put it into the chat. Sorry if you are on LinkedIn. This isn't even going to the right place. So apologize. Oh, Saad has a question. Okay, if we have to answer it, if we have to, as long as it's not math, I'll answer it. Time's ticking, though. The best part is there's like people might not notice. There's a pretty big delay. Maddie, if we share a resume, would you mind giving any feedback? Yes. So Maddie, if you want, I'm assuming if you're watching this on YouTube, you're at my main channel, Dev Leader. If you open up the playlist I have or one of the recent videos that's on resume reviews, you don't have to watch the whole thing. But in the intro to those videos, I explain how you can submit a resume for the chance for it to be reviewed, which is a great reminder. Thank you. Because right now I'm doing that as a chat delay too powerful. I'm doing that as a sort of a free thing. And I want to be transparent about this because I want to provide that opportunity where I can review people's resumes. I'm turning it into a video. It will be completely anonymous. So I redact all your personal information, companies and universities or college, unless the company is like a, Microsoft or Facebook or something big. But if you're like, I worked at a company down the street, and it's like, I will try to keep you as anonymous as possible. I do not do resume roasts. I don't make fun of people. If anyone submits a resume, it is 100% my intention to offer you constructive criticism. I want to help. So that means that if you submit it, I'm not just going to say, great job, like, you're the best. I will try to call out what I think that you are doing well from my perspective and things that I would try to improve. So if you want to see what that's like, go watch one of the resume review videos. Like I said, instructions are there. The reason I'm elaborating on this a little bit more is because right now that's completely free. And I don't know if people realize this, but like, I don't be making lots of money from YouTube. I make a couple of dollars a day. Can I get a roast? I'm not roasting resumes, man. I'm not doing it. I don't like making fun of people unless or ways that people have done things. I don't like doing that because I do it sometimes as a defense mechanism when people try to pick on me. I get very mean, and I don't like doing that because it feels quite frankly feels disgusting after. So when people like, as a content creator, I will often have people that are trying to make fun of things, and hey, thank you so much, I appreciate that. See here, I don't. To keep it short, I just hey man, submit your resume. Go watch one of the videos on YouTube and see the instructions. I won't roast it, but I will give you constructive criticism. But yeah, I don't like ripping into people because it feels bad after. My goal is to help. Okay, so you can submit that. Saad, okay, wasn't ignoring your question, I promise. How can I best leverage support engineer and solutions engineering roles as I move forward in your career? How to context, in your opinion, would it be better to gain experience in a variety of roles before moving into leadership or go deep? So this is a good question. When you talk about leadership, a couple things come to mind, right? I think, okay, well, let's clear some things up, I guess. So when we talk about leadership, leadership is all about people. So what I would say is, to your question specifically, like, to gain experience in a variety of roles before moving into leadership, I don't think that is a bad idea. I don't think it's a requisite. I don't think you need to do that. But if I gave you the framing that leadership is going to be all about working effectively with people, if that's the direction you want to go, like into management and working with people, being a people leader, it's all about people. So what I would say is, if you're like, hey, should I get a variety of experiences so that I have more technical knowledge, like, that could be nice in terms of being able to relate to other people and other roles and things like that. So it doesn't hurt. I don't think it's a requisite, though. I think what you would want to make sure is, like, do you enjoy mentoring people? Like, are you skilled at that? Have you spent time doing that? Can you navigate difficult conversations? Can you, like, the mentoring part? Like, there's a whole lot about just working with people that I think is very important to, get exposure to. And I say that because when I wanted to say get experience doing, and I understand that sometimes finding those experiences or trying to create them is challenging. Like, one example is, like, I try to make sure that I give engineers on the team that are, aspiring to be senior, at least, like, if we're getting interns or onboarding new engineers, like, try to make sure that they can buddy up and really be mentors for them. But the other reason I bring it up is, like, if you haven't had exposure to that, and then you find yourself in situations where you're like literally trying to mentor other people and like help them be successful, you might be like, man, this is tiring. Like, I would rather just code. And yeah, I just wanted to say that it's a lot of peopling. So if you're interested in peopling, getting experience doing other roles could be helpful. I don't think it's a requisite. And if you are going to do that, my takeaway for you would be like, those experiences might help you be more relatable to those roles and understand them better. So that could be nice. So hopefully that helps. I think it's a great question. 25-year educator, every quarter is an uncomfortable experience. Yeah. Keep reminding myself during the learning process. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks, Mike. Sahir was saying, do you prefer, I think this meant to say entity framework core. Do you prefer NCore or writing raw SQL? Entity framework or raw SQL? Raw SQL for sure. So funny story about this actually from earlier today. I have made, Saad says, I love peopling. Good. I think if you enjoy peopling, then working towards leadership is a thing. Some people see that as the only path forward, right? Like, I am a junior engineer. I want to be senior. And like, I have to become a manager at some point. You will absolutely hate your life if you are like, I want to, I enjoy the IC path. I love coding. I love building things and being hands-on. And then you become a manager and someone's like, hey, by the way, you have to go help have this conversation between two engineers that aren't getting along. And you're like, why am I doing this? It's a lot of fun. I'm saying that facetiously, but like, it is one of the most rewarding things for me in my life. So, because I do enjoy, even though some of the things are challenging. The funny story about Entity Framework Core and SQL. Okay, so I haven't written blog articles in a long time. When I started taking content creation more seriously, I was writing almost one blog article a day for a period. So I think I published like 300 plus articles in like a year and a half or something like that. And so I have a big list of blog articles and stuff on my website, and I use my social media scheduling platform called Brand Ghost to share out my blog articles. And so I got an email at work this morning. Was it this morning? Last night. It was before bed last night. So I get this email and it says, hey, I read your blog article. And I was like, what blog article? Why am I, and what, like, I don't write blog articles at work. Why am I getting emailed at work? I read your blog article about, and it was essentially around like how I was using Dapper, which is an ORM where you actually write your SQL queries out. And I was basically saying like, I like using Dapper over Entity Framework Core. And then I realized the email was from someone who at Microsoft who works on the Entity Framework Core team. And I was like, oh shit, like, that's awkward. But they're actually interested in talking to me about my experiences. Kind of like, if you think about it, I'm someone who says like, I don't enjoy using Entity Framework Core. I don't think it's bad by any means. I don't enjoy using it. So they're kind of taking the perspective, hey, look, this person's a friendly, they work at Microsoft. They don't enjoy using Entity Framework Core. We should try to understand why. Like, we can make stuff better, right? So I wanted to share that because I thought it was funny. Number two, I think it's really cool that they were like, hey, like, we want to learn from people that don't enjoy doing it, right? Like, if you prefer something over what we're building, isn't that a really good opportunity to learn about that? Also, they were actually super funny and friendly. And then they're actually inviting me to go speak at one of their, I can't remember what they called it, but it's like I think it's a monthly meeting they do. And I think it's streamed, so that will be pretty cool. It was like this really awkward moment where I was like, oops, like, and I was like, I promise I don't hate Entity Framework Core in my response. But overall, I think just a super cool opportunity. But yes, I do prefer writing SQL over Entity Framework Core for now, apparently. Cool. I think that's all the questions. Sahir, again, I wanted to say thanks very much for the tip there. Oh, I didn't finish. I didn't finish my resume thing. I got sidetracked. Sorry. My brain's all over the place. Suna, hello from Kick. So with the resume thing, and let me kind of, maybe I'll wrap up the stream with a couple thoughts here. Yes, you did notice that I'm streaming on Kick, and I will block you. Too many bots in this chat. So with the resume reviews, Suna, I don't know the answer to that. It's a question that's very difficult to answer. I can't agree to that if I don't know what you're actually asking me to do. With the resume reviews on my main channel, the reality is that they take time for me to do, which I don't mind. I'm already making videos, but they also cost me money. So like, what the point I was making earlier is like, I don't like, yes, I have YouTube ad revenue, but for those of you that aren't a YouTube creator, I make a couple of dollars a day from YouTube. It costs me on my main channel for editing costs. This is not like my time. I just mean purely on editing. It's almost like, depending on the month, like $500 to $1,000 a month is what it costs me. And I make a couple of dollars a day. So for me to go review a resume, I'm literally paying between $50 to $100 to go review someone's resume. So I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that for now, it's going to be kept open. Couldn't find... Here, let me. I'll link the stuff in the chat when I go to share my screen. So sorry about that, Maddie. For now, the resume stuff will remain open, but I may eventually put that behind a members only type of thing. And I just want to be transparent about that because like, it's literally like people pay money to have their resumes reviewed, and I'm literally paying to review resumes, and it feels kind of backwards. So, helps support the channel, lets me do what I continue to do. But for now, it will remain open. So let me go ahead and shift gears over here. I just want to refresh a couple things before I share my screen. Okay. Let's go over. Okay, so let's start back over here. So if you hadn't gone to where the newsletter is, so Suna, sorry, I don't have time for websites to review them. So I apologize, not for me. If you have not seen the newsletter article that the topic was based on, I'll put it in the chat again. A friendly reminder, if you don't want to subscribe to the newsletter because you're like getting emails annoying and dumb, I don't like that, don't do it. Totally cool. I would just say that if you enjoy these live streams, which I do every Monday at 7 p.m. Pacific, if you want to know what the topic's going to be about, it's like 99% likely that it will be on whatever the newsletter topic is. So in this case, it's what's on my screen, 10 years of experience versus the 10 years of the same experience. I will write up my newsletter article, will sometimes link to relevant videos, but that's that. Next, this is the sales part. I have courses available on Dome Train if you're interested in that. So it's not just C# programming courses. And unfortunately, these ones were free. There was a bundle. They were free until, actually, no, they still are free. One sec. It's not the end of the month yet. One sec. They're free. So if you want to learn C# for free, I was ready to deliver bad news, but these courses are literally free. It's 11.5 hours learning C# from basically nothing. Sorry if you're on Substack, you can't see my screen that I'm sharing, so I apologize. But it's at dometrain.com. If you want to learn how to program in C#, those ones are free. Otherwise, if you're interested in some of the other courses I've paired up with Ryan Murphy on a few of them that are career related. So if you're like, Nick, I don't want to learn C#, even though it's free, don't. That's cool. But we do have career ones. We have soft skills, getting promoted, behavioral interviews. We have another one that's coming. So another one that's about to launch soon, another one we're filming. So check those out if you're interested. I have my main YouTube channel, which is Dev Leader. I will put that in the chat as well. Some of you are already there because that's where you're watching the stream from. But you'll see, here's where the resume reviews are. So I'm just going to link one of the videos. Okay, so this is a resume review video. If you watch the beginning of that, then you'll see how to submit your resume. If you watch the whole thing, that'll give you an idea of how I approach resume reviews. And hopefully you see that I'm not like picking on people or roasting them or anything like that, just trying to be helpful. But you'll see an example of how I'm trying to give constructive criticism as well. And then finally, my other YouTube channel is called Code Commute. I will put a link to that in the chat as well. And Code Commute is my vlog channel where I basically, for the most part, am driving to and from work. And I make software engineering videos. This one, I'm going to show it because it's fun. But you can see it's a 360 video, so you can like look around. I have to fix this still. I don't know why there's a seam. But isn't that cool? Right? That's my floating head, and then you can kind of look around when I'm driving. I didn't even know YouTube supported this, but people were saying, hey, it'd be really cool if you got a 360 camera. So anyway, when it's not raining, I try to use this, and it makes it kind of fun. But you'll hear me rambling about software engineering stuff. And finally, I'll just link out Brand Ghost. So if you're interested in creating content or just posting to social media, Brand Ghost is the SaaS that I am building on the side. This is what I use to post all of my social media content. If you're on Substack, by the way, brandghost.ai, because I figure if you're on Substack, you might be more interested as a content creator. It's actually completely free to do cross-posting and scheduling. Literally. We have paid-for plans that are more advanced for content creators that need more. But literally, if you're like, I just want to post to all of my social media platforms for free, sign up. It's totally free. No strings attached. The idea is that we want to make sure that we can become a tool that new content creators want to use, because I was a new content creator roughly 26 months ago. I created content starting in 2013 for a bit, gave up. And then at the start of 2023, I said, I'm going to start taking it seriously. I'm going to make 3 YouTube videos a week. I'm going to write blog articles. I'm going to post to social media every day. And I built Brand Ghost so that I could do that. So Brand Ghost is literally what I built alongside all of my social media content creation, in terms of scheduling, all of that, to be able to support what I do. Now, I'm able to write a weekly newsletter. I do over 150 social media posts a week that I don't schedule. I've written them all myself, but I don't schedule them manually ever. I don't post to social media platforms directly. I post through Brand Ghost. Unless I'm replying to comments, sometimes it's still outside. I'm able to do between 10 to 15 YouTube videos a week now. The only thing that I've given up is blogging with a B. And I gave up blogging because I'm spending my time writing more code in Brand Ghost instead of blogging now. So I think that's my spiel, though. So if you're interested in posting to social media for free, check that out. And if you are a more serious content creator or you're an aspiring content creator, shoot me a message on LinkedIn. I'm happy to chat through it. I can teach you how to use Brand Ghost, like I said, for free. And that way you can build some momentum. I promise you that I understand how challenging it is to build momentum in the beginning, because you're like, everyone says you have to be consistent and post every day, but I can't think of something to post, and it's such a pain in the ass to post, and which platform should I post to? And I'm here to say you can post to literally all of them at the same time, and I have strategies that will help you post and then basically build momentum so that the next month when you go to post, you already have a bunch of posts ready to go. So, like I said, if that sounds interesting, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I ignore a lot of random connection requests because I get a lot of random ones, But feel free, you can send like an in-mail. It should be totally open, and you can say, hey, I wanted to know about Brand Ghost. I was watching the stream, and I'm happy to chat. So thanks so much, folks. Again, my apologies for the rough start. I sincerely do appreciate you being here. It means a lot to me. And I'll see you next week at the same time.